You think the Crusades were all glory, banners, and divine light? Try cold tents, itchy wool, and soup that bites back. The truth is, most Crusaders didn't die in battle. They just lived uncomfortably, layered in sweat, doubt, and stew of unknown origin. I tell slow history, soft, strange, and sometimes squishy. Perfect for those who fall asleep to facts and fermented socks. In the next few minutes, you'll wake inside a Crusader's tent, smell wet hay, hear armored prayers, and taste breakfast that questions your will to live. It's not divine, but it's definitely real. Over 500,000 listeners use stories like this to drift off. Not to battles, but to the beautiful boredom in between. So, before we begin, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan. If this made you smile or sigh, go ahead and like, maybe subscribe. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from tonight? The first breath you take smells like iron, old sweat, and something that might once have been hay, if hay had spent a decade fermenting beneath tired feet. You shift beneath a rough wool blanket that has taken on the personality of a wet dog. The air inside your tent is sharp and damp, clinging to your skin like a guilty conscience. Your armor lies next to you, a tangle of straps and regrets. The helmet is cold, damp, and quietly judging you. The morning breeze squeezes through every seam in the canvas, as if the wind itself is doing recon. You don't open your eyes all the way. You already know what you'll see. Canvas sagging, one sock missing, your neighbor's foot too close for comfort. Crusading, as it turns out, smells a lot less like incense and more like armpit and regret. You breathe. You don't move yet. The tent, like your faith, holds, but barely. Your blanket smells faintly of smoke, sheep, and unresolved decisions. Outside the tent, a distant cough reminds you that you're not the only one awake, and not the only one regretting life choices. You try to adjust your position, but the floor pokes back with a sharp twig that's now officially your enemy. You sit up slowly, each joint popping like old church pews in winter. Time to dress for another day of divine discomfort. First, the undertunic, then another tunic, then the padding, then the leather, then the metal. You've become a one-man onion of spiritual commitment. You no longer question the logic behind layering, you just know that without at least 4 layers, your skin might unionize. Somewhere, a goat bleats judgmentally, perhaps at your choice of socks. You wrap a belt around your torso with the fervor of a monk tying a vow of silence. Your companion next to you curses softly as he tries to find a clean piece of cloth that isn't already stiff with sweat. You glance at your boots and wonder if your toes are still where you left them. Putting them on feels like stuffing bread dough into chainmail. You wonder, did God really need this many layers of devotion? And wool? You pull your belt tighter and try to flatten your tunic wrinkles, as if God might be inspecting uniforms today. Someone sneezes 2 tents over, a wet sound that makes you question whether divine protection includes cold immunity. Probably not. The campfire still smolders. A pot of something grayish and lumpy boils slowly, as if reluctant to acknowledge its own existence. You scoop a ladleful into a cracked wooden bowl and stir. It resists. You chew. It pushes back. Across from you, another man gnaws on a loaf of bread with the intensity of someone trying to access hidden scripture inside the crust. someone mutters. At least it's not the soup from Tuesday. A third Crusader makes the sign of the cross and then adds salt. You're not sure which act was more sincere. The flavor is smoky, sour, soap-adjacent. You suspect the spoon has more nutritional value than the contents, but you eat anyway, because breakfast is less about taste and more about surviving until lunch, or until someone else gives up and shares a fig. It's not nourishment, it's medieval hope, in lumpy form. You break a tooth on a crusty edge, or maybe it was already cracked. Either way, breakfast continues. A man 2 spots over is dipping his bread into what looks like river water. His eyes say he's given up. His bread agrees. You kneel by your cot, or what used to be a cot. It's now just a symbolic gesture toward comfort. Your lips move in a clumsy rhythm of Latin phrases, half remembered, half improvised. A priest a few tents away chants more confidently, though no one is really awake enough to follow. Someone says amen at the wrong time. Another accidentally starts quoting a drinking song. You press your hands together, not quite sure if you're praying for victory or just a nap. Outside, the sun begins to rise with a glow that's far too optimistic for your lower back. You open one eye and notice your tent mate sleeping with his helmet on, either out of piety or poor decision-making. The goats outside seem more spiritually centered than half the camp. You try to feel holy. You mostly feel itchy. A dog barks once, then gives up. It knows better than to question spiritual chaos. The priest sneezes mid-chant, but bravely powers through. You try to mumble in unison, but your voice comes out as something between a yawn and a curse. You stand. The tent creaks. Your knees issue a formal complaint. You duck outside and instantly step into something warm, soft, and squishy. And the goat, it seems, made its own spiritual contribution to the dawn. A rooster screams from a fence post like a war trumpet made of feathers and spite. Around you, men are pulling on armor, arguing over who borrowed whose blanket, and trying to look holy while scratching in unholy places. You scrape your boot against a tree stump that is somehow wetter than it should be. Your belt comes loose. Your sword clinks. You pretend to look majestic but feel more like a boiled sausage stuffed into a tin box. And just like that, the day begins. Not with glory, not with music, but with goat dung and tight boots. As you walk forward, the squish follows you like guilt. One man is using his sword to pick dirt out of his toenails. Another has wrapped his head in his undergarment and declared it a new helmet. You nod. Whatever works. You packed for glory. Or so you thought. But as you open your sack beneath the smoky dawn, reality kicks in. With a goat sniffing your bread, and your sword poking through your only spare shirt. You sit cross-legged on a stump that's more splinter than wood, inspecting your travel gear like a soldier meets street magician. There's a dagger, small, slightly bent, and more useful for spreading cheese than slaying enemies. A loaf of hardened bread shaped suspiciously like your foot, and a cloth pouch containing something you forgot, then remembered, then immediately wished you hadn't remembered. Dried onions. Lots of them. A fellow Crusader nearby pulls out a bone comb, a wooden spoon, and a rock he insists brings luck. You nod politely. After all, who's to say what counts as holy these days? At least he didn't pack a chicken. Someone else did. The chicken is unimpressed. In truth, you brought what you could carry, which wasn't much. Just enough to survive, maybe, or just enough to die feeling slightly more prepared. Either way, it rattles when you walk, and smells like 5 kinds of wrong when it rains. You pray it doesn't rain. You pause. You sniff. Something might have already leaked. You tie everything with the same fraying rope from last summer, hoping faith holds knots better than physics. There's a small wooden cross wrapped in twine tucked into your belt. You touch it more out of habit than belief. It's smooth from worry, not reverence. Next to it, a cloth charm tied by your neighbor's cousin's sister. Supposedly blessed. Definitely itchy. These are your spiritual defenses. They will not save your knees. Some men carry entire reliquaries strapped to their chests like holy armor. Others tuck saint bones in their boots, which explains the limp. There's a man who swears by the power of chicken feathers soaked in wine. He's limping too, but insists it's divine resistance training. You try not to judge, but the bangle made of fish teeth might be a step too far. What you wish you had: a back brace, better shoes, and something to guard your soul and souls. What you do have: 2 cracked tokens and a growing list of regrets. But still, when the sun hits your cross just right, you almost believe. Almost. You breathe in the dust. You tighten your belt. Faith is a heavy thing to pack. The cloth charm flutters slightly in the wind, as if even it isn't sure what it's doing here. There's always one item you regret bringing. Yours might be the ceramic owl, given to you by a well-meaning aunt who said it watches over you. It's chipped, hollow, and makes a noise if shaken, a trait shared with half the men in your battalion. Someone else brought a coin pouch sewn into the lining of his trousers. Effective, but unfortunate in battle. Another carries a mirror, cracked clean through, which he insists reflects enemy spirits. Most just use it to check for lice. The crown jewel of absurdity belongs to a lad named Piers, who brought a stuffed rabbit named Sir Thumps. He swears it has warded off 3 cases of plague, and at least 1 bad stew. Sir Thumps wears a sash. You can't decide if it's endearing or deeply worrying. But no one mocks him. Not really. Everyone has their thing. Yours just happens to jingle when you run. You smile quietly. Maybe superstition is survival by another name. You once tried to trade the owl for bread. The man refused. He said the owl had bad energy. If you're imagining a sleek backpack with compartments, stop. You carried everything in a sack that once held grain, and it smells like it still does. Your socks rub against a crust of barley dust, no matter how much you shake them. The waterproofing is wishful thinking and goat fat. If it rains, it leaks. If it's sunny, it melts. Either way, you lose. A real miracle is keeping anything dry. Your shirt clings to your spoon. Your spoon clings to your blanket. Your blanket clings to yesterday's meat. It's a clingathon of biblical proportions. You wrap it all in an oiled cloth that leaks at the corners. A drop lands on your bread. You pretend it's flavor. Modern comfort, gone. Ergonomics, not invented yet. Ventilation, only when the sack rips. Still, you make do. You squint at the horizon and adjust the weight on your shoulder. It's not heavy with gear. It's heavy with the realization that this is your life now. And your sack is squeaking. Again. A pebble from home hides in your sack's lining, rattling like a memory too stubborn to let go. The last thing packed wasn't a thing. It was a goodbye. Your wife cried. Your dog didn't. It just stared at you, with the judgment of 10 lifetimes. You tried to say something wise, something strong. What came out was a noise somewhere between a sniff and a hiccup. Your oldest child gave you a rock. No explanation. Just a rock. You packed it anyway. At night. You hold it sometimes. Not for luck. Not even for comfort. Just to feel something real. That isn't leather. Iron. Or disappointment. You remember your neighbor yelling something from the fence as you walked away? It might have been a blessing, or a warning, or just directions for how not to step in manure. Either way, you didn't look back, but you remember every step. And the dog, still watching. Later that night, you swear you hear the dog's bark in the wind. Or maybe it's just your guilt. You turn for one last look. Not because you're sentimental, but because you're not sure when. Or if you'll see that muddy little home again. The roof still sags like it's tired of holding the sky. The door creaks on cue like it's auditioning for a ghost story. And the pig, your pig, is staring at you like you've made a grave mistake. He grunts once. You nod. It's a moment. There's your shovel, leaning by the door. Still caked in last week's earth. You were supposed to fix that fence. But now someone else will have to chase the neighbor's goat out of your cabbage. Inside, everything smells like smoke and onions. And your youngest child's hands. A wooden spoon rests in the bowl, like someone paused mid-stir and forgot to return. You didn't take much with you. The house doesn't notice. The walls remain cracked, but dependable, like old friends who never learned how to say goodbye. You walk. You don't look back again. You think about how the pig never once escaped, unlike the chickens. Loyal in the way only food can be. You almost whisper goodbye. But stop yourself. Sentimentality is a luxury you packed poorly. Instead, you tighten your grip on the bag and take one more step away from the only place where your name means anything. Your wife holds your hand too tightly. Not because she wants to stop you, because she knows she can't. She packed your bag the night before, folded your only clean shirt like it might hold you together, tied your pouch like she was knotting part of herself into it. Your daughter asks if you'll be back by summer. You say yes, because I don't know doesn't fit into the mouth of a child. The baby doesn't understand, but he keeps tugging your boots. You pretend it's affection, not a desperate attempt to climb you like a tree. You kiss your wife once on the cheek. Then again, because one goodbye is never enough. She says nothing. But her silence says, "Come back with your heart intact." You leave before she cries, because you know the sound would undo you completely. She tucks a dried flower into your pocket when she thinks you're not looking. The petals crumble a little when you move, but you leave it there. It's not armor, but it holds more power than your blade ever could. Later, miles away, you'll touch it and feel everything you tried to leave behind pressing gently against your ribs. The path out of the village is lined with faces. Some nod. Some avoid eye contact. And one, very helpfully, hands you the knife you left by the well. "Don't forget this," he says. Like you just left your lunch behind. Your neighbor claps you on the back with the force of a minor landslide. "Glory awaits," he says, with the tone of someone who's happy it's you, not him. Children chase the cart as it rattles by. One throws a clump of hay. Another tosses a turnip and misses by a mile. You wave anyway, because even bad aim counts as affection out here. Old Mara from 3 doors down hands you a sprig of rosemary. "Keep the evil spirits off," she mutters. Or maybe she said good riddance. It's hard to tell with Mara. Someone jokes that you'll be back before harvest. Someone else offers to watch your pig, which sounds generous until you remember he eats pigs. Even the priest shows up late, offering a nod and a prayer that sounds suspiciously like a weather forecast. It's a send-off stitched with awkward affection and silent expectations no one dares say aloud. You tell yourself it's duty, a calling, a divine pull stronger than the mud under your boots. But a small part of you, quiet, ashamed, and honest, knows this. You were tired of the turnips, tired of the endless digging, planting, lifting, repairing, repeating. You wanted something more. Even if it meant marching towards something you didn't fully understand. War sounded dramatic, purposeful. It promised glory, or at least change. And sometimes change, even a dangerous kind, feels easier to bear than one more year of leaking roofs and cold stew. You love your family, but there's a voice in you, young and reckless, whispering, what if there's more? You dreamt of far-off cities, of spices and silk and songs not sung in dirt. You imagined yourself in shining armor, not patched leather and second-hand chain. You thought leaving would make you feel brave, but mostly it makes you feel lighter, like someone finally let go of your collar. No one tells you how quiet freedom feels. The church said it was holy. Your Lord said it was honor. Your neighbor said it was about time someone else went. But deep down, you suspect a strange truth. Most crusades begin not with righteousness, but with restlessness. You didn't leave to kill. You left to feel, to matter, to prove that your hands could build something more than fences and firewood. Maybe you'll come back wiser. Maybe you won't come back at all. But right now, as the wind shifts and your house disappears behind the hill, you feel something you didn't expect. Not fear, not pride. Relief. You think maybe that's what war is. The loudest way to chase silence. All your life you've been needed. For firewood. For harvests. For patching roofs. But now, you're just leaving. Not running. Just stepping into the unknown. Because the known has grown too tight. If you die, at least you'll die untethered. And maybe that's its own kind of faith. The road isn't paved. Not with cobblestone. Not with mercy. Just mud. And miles of it. Your boots sink with every step. Then argue with the mud before letting go. You keep walking. Because stopping means getting colder. And getting colder means complaining. And no one wants to be the one who complains first. The rain isn't heavy, just committed. Like a small child drumming steadily on your helmet for hours. Drip. 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 Your armor squeaks. Your belt rubs. And the man in front of you smells like wet sheep and regret. A group behind you tries to sing. It turns into a chorus of coughing and mild blasphemy. Your socks gave up miles ago. Your knees are considering a rebellion. You smile grimly and keep moving. Because misery shared is, if not halved, at least slightly more sarcastic. Your sword clinks against your thigh. Like it's tired too. Even your thoughts sound soggy. You start reciting old prayers just to keep rhythm. Half for faith. Half for distraction. When you step into a puddle that reaches your ankle, you don't even flinch. That's how you know you've adjusted. Wet is just the new normal. Lunch is not so much a meal as an act of determination. You find a rock, sit on it like it's a throne of endurance, and pull out your ration. Bread, harder than strategy, older than hope. You take a bite, regret it, drop it, pick it up, brush it off with a sleeve already dirtier than the ground. Then eat it anyway. Because dignity is for people with options. A man nearby eats a sausage, with the calm of someone whose forgotten taste exists. Another just chews on a stick. He might not know it's a stick. You all pretend it's fine. Someone tries to tell a joke. No one laughs. Then someone sneezes, and the entire formation flinches. You wonder if you packed any salt. You didn't, but you licked the sleeve anyway. Flavor is where you find it now. Someone passes around a flask with something that used to be wine. You sip. It burns. It helps. A dog follows the group for half a mile, hoping someone drops meat. Eventually it gives up. Smartest one among you. You look down at your bread, shrug, and name it dinner. You call it Harold. He's dry, at least. You meet your fellow soldiers, one whiff at a time. Gaston smells like onions and desperation. He's from the West. Pierre carries garlic in his boot. Medicinal, he claims. The man from the Highlands wears a tunic so stiff with sweat it stands on its own during rest stops. The young lad from the coast hums sea shanties and sleeps with one eye open. You try to remember names, but mostly remember smells. It's a marching band of body odor and awkward introductions. You all speak different dialects. But everyone understands the language of blisters and sarcasm. Someone trips on a rock and curses in 3 languages. You mentally applaud the fluency. The banner carrier is very proud of his position. Until a bird uses his banner for target practice. Twice. Still, the group finds rhythm. Shared pain is an excellent translator. So is shared trenchfoot. There's a man with a flute. He plays it every evening. Badly. But it becomes tradition. Like complaining or pretending you didn't hear the commander. You share jokes that don't translate. You laugh anyway. By now, you recognize everyone by the rhythm of their footsteps. Your tribe is sweat-soaked, cranky, multilingual, and yours. Setting up camp sounds simple. Until the wind gets involved, you unpack your tent, like it's a gift you forgot how to unwrap. Stakes go in. Canvas flaps. Your knees crack. You finish. You blink. It collapses in dramatic fashion. You try again. Your neighbor offers unsolicited advice. You ignore it. The tent ignores both of you. Eventually, you sleep half under it, half inside it, and half questioning your life choices. There's a distant owl hooting. Or maybe it's just your tent sighing in disappointment. The fire sputters. The soup simmers. You chew each bite like it owes you rent. Then the rain starts again. Because of course it does. Camping with religious trauma included. The cooking pot has a dent. From someone tripping over it. Again. Someone else tries to use a helmet as a bowl. It works until the soup leaks out the ear hole. Your firewood is damp. So is your patience. Still, someone hums. You hum back. It's a terrible duet, but it means you're not alone. You lie down. Boots still on? Socks soaked. Blanket pulled to your chin, like it'll protect you from regret. You think about why you joined. Faith? Honor? Adventure? At the moment, you mostly think about dry socks and toilets with walls. The stars are hidden behind clouds. The sky doesn't care. Someone nearby starts snoring, like they're wrestling a bear. Another grinds his teeth, like he's angry at bread. You close your eyes and pretend the tent isn't leaking onto your forehead. It is, but pretending is part of survival now. That, and sharing half a blanket with a man named Baldwin, who insists on sleeping diagonally. You wonder if this is what brotherhood means. Smelly, soggy, diagonal companionship. And still, despite the cold, despite the smells, despite Baldwin, you fall asleep. Sort of. You dream of stew, not the one you had, but one that smells edible. Someone passes gas and blames the dog. You don't have a dog. That's somehow worse. You shift. You sigh. The moon peeks out just once, like it's checking on you, then hides again. Smart moon. You envy it deeply. You were promised a sacred journey. You got lost with 300 other men and exactly one map, drawn by someone who had clearly never walked a day in his sandals. 3 days in, and you see it. The rock. That same misshapen lump with the weird crack. And the suspicious bird poop stain. You saw it yesterday. And the day before. It's official. You're walking in theological circles. The priest says it's a divine sign. The captain says it's a marker. You say it's a rock. And now it's judging you. Every direction starts to look the same. Olive trees. Dirt paths. More olive trees. You pass a bush that looks oddly familiar. You name it Jeffrey. Jeffrey is now part of the group. The horses are tired. The men are tired. Even the jokes are tired. Someone finally suggests they ask a shepherd for directions. The shepherd shrugs, points vaguely southeast, then resumes arguing with a goat. You vote to follow the goat. He seems more confident than the captain. You debate naming the rock. Something biblical. Maybe Saint Wrong Turn the Third. Someone draws a smiling face on it with charcoal. It helps morale for 5 minutes. Then it rains. Even the rock looks tired now. You pass it again. It still says nothing. Just watches. Like it knows things you don't. You pause. You squish. You keep walking. Leadership was supposed to be clear. One cross. One cause. One commander. Instead, you have 5 men arguing about terrain, and none of them can read the compass. One insists he was blessed by the bishop. Another has a feather in his hat, and that seems to count as credentials. The oldest has a limp and no patience. But everyone moves when he raises his staff, mostly out of fear. The youngest just yells a lot and draws swords for emphasis. You've started calling him Sir Overcompensates. Meetings take longer than marches. Maps get redrawn with sticks in the dirt. Twice, a dog walks across them and improves accuracy. Eventually, someone makes a decision. Everyone grumbles. No one agrees. You walk anyway, because standing still makes you a target for volunteers. Or worse, motivational speeches. Someone invents a new title, Path Prophet, and starts walking ahead dramatically. He gets lost before lunch. One guy actually carries a chicken and says it clucks when facing east. You're not sure if it works, but people start following it anyway. The chicken becomes more trusted than half your officers. You blink. You sigh. You follow anyway. You wake up shivering and eat lunch sweating. The weather can't decide what it wants, so it picks everything. One moment the wind howls like a divine warning. The next, the sun is cooking your forehead like it owes you money. You remove your helmet, then regret it. You put it back, then regret that. Your armor traps heat like a jealous oven. Your underlayer clings like betrayal. You envy clouds. You envy birds. You envy the guy who stayed home with a twisted ankle. Water is warm. Shade is rare. And your boots squelch with every step, like walking in regret. Someone tries to forecast the weather. He's wrong. Again. Another man says it's a test of faith. You think it's more a test of sweat glands. Still, you keep moving. Mostly because sitting down means standing back up. And no one wants to do that twice. You try layering, then delayering, then regretting both. Your skin becomes a battlefield. Between heat rash and chills, someone suggests marching in only a tunic. He's now everyone's favorite, but also sunburned beyond recognition. Another uses cabbage leaves under his armor. No one questions it. Desperation breeds innovation. You fan yourself with a crust of bread. If someone told you this was team building, you'd believe it. Poorly planned. High stakes. Medieval team building. You carry gear for people you barely know. You trade socks like currency. You eat from shared bowls and learn to identify each other by coughs. You help hoist a man out of a ditch. He thanks you by falling into another one. Someone starts a chant. It lasts 8 seconds, then dissolves into complaints about knees. You bond over blisters, over bug bites, over bread that might be a rock. A man shares a story about home. It ends with silence and the sound of chewing. You all pretend not to cry. Or maybe it's just dust in your eyes. There is no pizza. No reward badge. No cheesy t-shirts. Just shared suffering. And the vague hope that at the end of this, something holy will have made the pain feel less stupid. There's no official leader. But somehow, a man named Guy now organizes stretching routines. He says flexibility is key to survival. You think it's madness, but you still do toe touches beside a sword. Someone plays a game. Guess whose blister this is? No one wins. Everyone itches. You stretch. You grunt. You blame the soup. That night, you stare into the stars like they owe you answers. You wonder if anyone up there is laughing, or just watching. You shift your weight. Your back cracks like old parchment. You think about home, not just your house, but the version of yourself that stayed behind. The version still digging potatoes and sleeping in peace. Were you brave? Or bored? Were you faithful? Or foolish? You clutch your wooden cross like it holds GPS signals. Still no clarity. Someone snores beside you. Another dreams out loud about cheese. You lie still. And for the first time, the question grows louder than the marching songs. Where exactly are we going? And why did I follow? You start writing prayers in your head. Not to be saved, just to understand. You imagine divine GPS. Turn left at next despair. But no voice comes. Just your own, and it's getting harder to trust. You turn over on hard ground and whisper the question again, hoping someone, anything, answers. You breathe. You shift. You stay quiet. You made it. Past the mud. Past the marching. Past the wrong turns and wronger directions. You arrive at Byzantium, where the walls are tall, the streets are clean, and the people unimpressed. It's like walking into a painting. Everything gleams. The gates shimmer with gold trim. The guards have matching armor, clean, polished, coordinated, which feels like an insult. You step onto marble with your mud-caked boots. It echoes louder than your thoughts. Locals glance sideways. Not with hostility. Worse, pity. Your group looks like what happens when a pigsty and a military parade collide. You straighten your posture. You try to look noble. Your knee pops. So much for that. One man tries to adjust his tunic. It tears. You march through their market, where fruit isn't bruised, bread isn't gray, and no one yells. Even the pigeons look expensive. Someone mutters, "This isn't what I imagined." You nod, chewing something that's either jerky or shoe. You arrive in a square, lined with statues older than your religion. You stop. You stare. They don't. They keep walking, like you're a footnote they forgot to read. Someone tries to spit-shine their boots. The mud just spreads. Another tries to tuck in his tunic. It only emphasizes the stains. You collectively resemble a parade of misplaced optimism. A child points and laughs. You wave. She hides. It's fine. You're used to being the weird chapter in someone else's story. You step. You shuffle. You try not to look too impressed or too muddy. Then comes the talking, which quickly turns into gesturing, which quickly turns into shouting, which turns into someone dropping a helmet in frustration. Your envoy speaks Latin. Their official replies in Greek. A translator tries both, then quietly gives up, and pretends to cough for the next 10 minutes. The emperor sends a note. It's beautifully written, gilded at the edges. No one can read it. You reply with a document of your own, written on goat hide, and featuring several words you're not sure are real. They raise eyebrows. You raise your voice. Everyone raises tension. Eventually, someone brings figs. This helps, but only slightly. You try small talk. They offer small nods. You compliment their walls. They compliment your courage. It feels like an insult. You shake hands. They use gloves. You smile. They bow stiffly. You realize diplomacy is just polite confusion with snacks. Someone mimes across and points east. The Byzantines respond by miming taxes. You think they might be threatening to invoice you. A Crusader offers gold. They offer forms. You sigh. You miss arguing with goats. At least goats don't smile while saying no. You breathe. You nod. You pretend this is going better than it clearly is. Inside a chapel, you accidentally brush a relic. It glows. Or maybe it was just the candlelight. Either way, everyone gasps. A monk hisses something that sounds like divine disapproval. You back away slowly, like the object might explode into holy consequences. You apologize. In 3 languages. None of them help. Someone else tries to explain. It makes things worse. Now there's pointing. Now there's chanting. You sit down quietly. Hands folded like a guilty altar boy. Your captain steps in, tries to laugh it off. The monks do not laugh. You're escorted out gently, but firmly. Your boot squeaks. It's the loudest sound in the whole city. Later, someone tells you the relic belonged to a saint who once cured a donkey by glaring at it. You wonder if it could do the same for your feet. You didn't even touch it with intent. Your elbow brushed it during a sneeze. But now you're the guy who defiled a holy object. It'll probably go on your tombstone. Someone whispers that it's cursed. You check your hands. Still attached. For now, you sit. You fold your hands. You avoid sudden movements around ancient furniture. They say they've found you lodging. You follow a steward who walks like he's being punished. He leads you past beautiful homes, flowering balconies, and quiet fountains, then turns sharply into a barn. Not a fancy barn, not even a clean barn. A barn with straw, and something suspiciously snoring in the corner. This is guest chamber, he says. You look at the fleas. They look back, with interest. Your bed is hay. Your blanket is regret. Someone nearby finds a bucket, declares it a wash basin. You all take turns pretending it works. One man sets up a line to dry his socks. They freeze in place. Another befriends a chicken. Names it Comfort. You lie down between two barrels and try not to inhale too hard. The chicken sneezes. You sneeze back. Luxury accommodations. With complimentary fleas, you try fluffing the hay. It crunches. You flip your cloak over your face. It smells like soup and disappointment. Someone next to you starts a bedtime story about lice. You fake sleep before it gets worse. The fleas don't care. They're thrilled you came. You scratch. You shift. You wonder if hay can actually file a complaint. That night, you lie in the straw and listen to Byzantine nightlife. Distant bells, murmured prayers. Occasional elite coughing. You feel like a ghost, haunting a civilization better dressed. You wonder if you're meant to be here. They're rich, educated, organized. You're not, but you're here anyway. And in the dark, with straw poking your ribs, and the smell of goat dreams lingering, you admit something hard. You thought reaching Byzantium would feel like arriving. It doesn't. It just feels like another place you don't belong in yet. And yet, you close your eyes. Because tomorrow, you march again, hopefully forward this time. You dream of warm baths and clean robes. Then you wake up wrapped in hay and chicken feathers. For a moment you forget where you are. Then the smell reminds you. The empire endures. But your socks might not. You whisper goodnight to the chicken. It does not respond. You blink. You sigh. You hope tomorrow's air smells slightly less judgmental. Sleep is sacred, which is unfortunate, because you're not getting much of it. Not with this ground. Not with this cold. Not with this budget. You lie on the dirt, pretending it's soft. It's not. It's lumpy in all the wrong places, like sleeping on a sack of regret and loose potatoes. Your hip finds a rock. Your shoulder finds another. Your back finds religion. You try adjusting. The ground adjusts back. Someone nearby claims he found a patch with fewer roots. You don't believe him. His smirk confirms it was a lie. You once dreamed of straw mattresses. Now you'd settle for warm mud. Your blanket slides off in the night. The breeze carries judgment. So does your body odor. A dog wanders through camp and steals your sock. You let it go. The sock gave up hours ago. You use your pack as a pillow. It pokes back. With every buckle, eventually you drift off. Not into sleep, but into a truce with the dirt. You try stuffing straw under your side. It crunches once, then disappears like hope. You sigh and count stars. One blinks, probably out of pity. You whisper a prayer for a pillow. The silence responds with indifference. You turn. You sigh. You stay horizontal and call it rest. Silence falls. Then it rises again, in the form of Gregor's snoring. It begins subtly. A low rumble, like a bear clearing its throat. Then it builds, peaks, echoes, repeats. You wonder if the tent will collapse under the sheer sound pressure. Someone tries to poke him. He growls in his sleep. Another tosses a boot. It misses and hits someone else. Now there's yelling. And more snoring. Gregor rolls over. The tent canvas shivers. You try to match your breathing to his rhythm. It doesn't work. His rhythm is chaos. Eventually, someone starts humming a lullaby to drown it out. It makes things worse. Now it's a duet of confusion and nasal thunder. You consider sleeping outside. You step out. The wind slaps you like a disappointed parent. You crawl back in. Gregor snores in triumph. You bury your face in your cloak. You try to dream of quieter creatures, like thunderstorms. You count sheep. They snore too. Someone swears Gregor's snoring summons wolves. Another starts praying for sleep like it's a lost miracle. You wrap your scarf around your head. It muffles sound slightly. Also your breathing. You choose noise over suffocation. Barely. There was one blanket. Once. Now there are 4 limbs pulling it in opposite directions. It stretches. It whines. It fails. You cling to the edge like a man dangling from a cliff. Someone turns over and takes half with him. You whisper curses. They are not silent. The fabric is damp. Not with water, with historical sorrow. Someone suggests sleeping head to foot for warmth. You try. You regret it immediately. You wake up with toes near your face, and someone's breath arguing with your ear. A fight nearly breaks out over blanket real estate. An elder steps in. He claims the middle like Switzerland. You get the corner. It smells like vinegar and socks. Still better than nothing. Eventually, the blanket gives up. Tears slightly. You all pretend not to notice. You roll yourself like a burrito. It's your only defense. Someone coughs. You flinch. You close your eyes. You shiver. You survive. You remember noble tales of brotherhood and unity. They never mention blanket tug-of-war or the way feet multiply in the dark. You consider negotiating peace. Then someone sneezes on the shared edge. Peace talks are canceled. Night should be quiet. It isn't. A horse snorts in the dark. Someone whispers prayers. Someone else mutters about missing spoons. You hear footsteps. Or was it wind? Then a distant clank. Metal on metal. You're suddenly wide awake. A man groans in his sleep. Another kicks him. Now both are groaning. Your eyes dart to the tent flap. Nothing. You hear someone digging. You hope it's for firewood. You fear it's not. An owl hoots. You jump. Then realize it was just your own stomach. Your blanket shifts again. You tug it back. Someone tugs harder. A dog barks. Then stops. You lie still. Pretend everything is fine. Sleep in this camp is like diplomacy. Loud, complicated, and occasionally offensive. You cover your ears. You hum. It helps. Barely. A baby starts crying in a neighboring tent. You didn't know there was a baby or a neighboring tent. You think you hear chanting or coughing or both. You pull the blanket tighter and pretend it's a wall. You wake before dawn, not because you're rested, but because someone stepped on your foot. It's dark. You reach for your boots. You find someone else's. They're the wrong size. Also wet. You whisper apologies to no one in particular and begin the hunt. You trip on a bucket. You step on something squishy. It might have been a sausage. You don't check. A chicken flaps past. You salute it. It ignores you. The tent sags on one side. Someone's leg sticks out like a lost broomstick. You find your boots. They're upside down. And one has something living inside. You shake it. It leaves. You put them on anyway. Because nothing says pilgrim of God like damp boots and a questionable limp. You sip from your canteen. It tastes like regret and last night's fire. Someone yawns so loudly it wakes a goat. You wave good morning to no one. They don't wave back. You start the day anyway. Because what else can you do? You squint toward the rising sun. Another glorious day of sanctified exhaustion begins. And good luck finding your boots in the dark. You trained for battle. Sharpened blades. Polished armor. Practiced war cries. But so far, your fiercest opponent is the sky. You expected arrows. You got rain. Endless, slanting, whispering rain. Not a heroic downpour, but the sort that drizzles doubt into your bones. You wait in armor that was never meant to rust this fast. Water slides down your back, into your collar, down your spine. The battlefield becomes a puddle. The puddle becomes a lake. You stand in it, wading through ankle-deep water and midlife questions. Where are the enemies? Where is glory? Why is there water in your ears? Someone suggests building a boat. No one laughs. You actually consider it. The signal horn sounds. But no one charges. Because no one wants to slip and be remembered for it. A man in chainmail sneezes so hard his helmet shifts sideways. Another sinks knee-deep into mud and stays there. He names the puddle after his mother. You can't tell if you're crying or just leaking. Rain seeps into your helmet, into your thoughts. You wonder if armor can mold. Someone starts humming a hymn. Off key. It helps. A little. You blink. You breathe. You slosh back into formation. Someone says they can build a fire. They lie. You watch 5 grown men argue over damp straw and sad twigs. One insists on using divine breath. Another brings a wet torch. It hisses in protest. The sparks rise and immediately give up. You try fanning it. The smoke responds by slapping you in the eyes. You cry. It's not emotional. It's biological warfare. Someone remembers they have flint. It's in their other pants. Those pants are currently being worn by the guy who snores. You scrape metal against rock. You pray. You get smoke. And judgment. Eventually, something catches. Barely. A flame the size of hope flickers. Everyone circles it like it's sacred. Which at this point it is. You hold your hands out. Feel nothing. A breeze arrives. The flame departs. The fire goes out. The way most of your optimism has lately. Quietly and without warning. One man kneels and blows on the ember like it owes him money. Another starts praying to the god of dry socks. You wait. Still cold. You rub your hands together. They squeak. You warm your soul with the memory of warmer fires. It doesn't help. You blink. You sniff. You move closer anyway. There is mud. And then there is Crusader mud. It has depth. Character. Intent. It gets into places you didn't know existed. It enters your tent uninvited. Your blanket now has a texture. Your spoon sinks mid-meal. You dig it out. You eat anyway. A man loses his shoe. He keeps walking. He's accepted the earth, now owns it. Someone sneezes and mud sprays. No one flinches. You've all become part of the environment. Your soup has grit. Your clothes make squishing noises. Your hair crunches. You dream of dry socks. You wake with damp hope. Your boot makes a sound you can't describe. You don't try again. You find mud in your ear. And in your bread. You choose the bread. Eventually, you stop fighting it. You and the mud are one. You smear it on your face and call it weather armor. Someone compliments the tone. You slip. Fall. Laugh. Then pretend you meant to do that. Someone offers a muddy hand. You accept. Friendship now comes pre-dirtied. You step. You sink. You keep eating. The enemy may be scary, but hypothermia is punctual. You shiver like a tambourine. Your teeth clap in rhythm. You wrap yourself in everything you own. Still, the cold finds your ankles, like it has a grudge. You consider hugging a goat. Not for warmth, for moral support. The sky spits mist. The ground drinks it. You remain the soggy sandwich in between. Your commander tells you to be brave. He's inside a tent. You walk in circles to generate heat. You get dizzy. Then nauseous. You stop walking. Someone tries jumping jacks. The joints say no. You applaud the effort. You rub your hands so hard you spark static. Someone yells, "Witch!" It's a joke. Probably. A man puts a heated rock in his boot. It burns a hole, but he claims victory. You contemplate lighting yourself on fire for warmth. Briefly. Then remember your only dry thing is your sense of humor. And that's fading too. You tell yourself it's all part of the trial. That hardship builds character. You sniff. Your nose disagrees. You curl. You breathe. You endure. If this were glamping, you'd sue the resort. There are no cushions, no lanterns, no canapés, just mud, steam, and a beetle named Gerald who now lives in your sock. You laugh softly, then louder, then too loud. People stare. You pretend it was a cough. You imagine posting a review. Too much rain, food gritty, hospitality muddy. Would not recommend without divine intervention. Someone compares it to a team-building retreat. You reply, "Where's the pizza?" Someone else says, "This is good for the soul." You think your soul is damp and possibly sprouting moss. You lay down to rest. Your cloak soaks up more than your worries. You dream of indoor plumbing and warm cheese. You whisper to the sky, "Just a little less weather tomorrow?" It doesn't answer. You imagine medieval Instagram. Blurry mud, blurry stew, blurry despair. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag no filter. Hashtag please send soup. You chuckle. You sniff. You roll into the next hour. It's not glorious battles that define Crusader life. It's the small rituals, the odd habits, the sacred discomforts. This is your holy routine. You wake up. You blink at the sun. It blinks back unimpressed. First task of the day? Dental hygiene, which sounds noble, until you realize your toothbrush is your index finger and maybe a mint leaf. If the wind is generous, you scoop a bit of water from a leather pouch. Swish. Gargle. Choke slightly. The water is warm, and not in a good way. Your teeth protest. Your tongue begs for mint. Your gums whisper ancient regrets. Someone next to you uses ash. Claims it's natural. He hasn't smiled in days. Probably for the best. A man chews a stick with conviction. You nod with respect. He might be onto something, or slowly turning into a tree. You rub your finger along your teeth. It squeaks. You spit. It lands on your boot. You pretend it didn't. Someone jokes. At least it's not combat. You laugh. But not too hard. Your molar might be loose. Someone mentions chewing parsley to freshen breath. You consider eating the parsley growing by the latrine. Then reconsider. A boy walks by eating honey. You envy his teeth. You envy the honey more. You rinse. You sigh. You call it clean enough. Your armor once shined. Now it sulks. It's scratched. Pitted. Smells like regret and onions. You try cleaning it. With what? Sand. Dry, itchy, soul-exfoliating sand. You rub it in circles. You hear the faint scream of your dignity. Someone suggests using wine. You almost punch them. Another offers spit. You decline. Politely. You scrub harder. It resists. Like it knows the battle hasn't even started. A passing priest offers a blessing. You ask if he can bless stains. He walks away. A child watches. Laughs. Points out a spot you missed. You name your next dent after him. Eventually, the metal accepts defeat. It's not clean, but it's shinier in a well-worn sadness kind of way. You hold it up to the light. It glints, then drops in the dirt. You pick it up again. You keep going, because even if no one notices, you do. You find a shell stuck in the joint of your shoulder plate. No one knows how it got there. You keep it. It's your new lucky charm. Probably luckier than the armor itself. You brush. You blink. You mutter about sand. Need a spoon? Give a favor. Or a finger. The camp economy runs on desperation, sarcasm, and questionable trades. You offer a needle. You get a carrot. You offer a button. You get laughed at. A man trades half a comb for an entire onion. He cries. Probably from both. Someone offers to trade a prayer for a biscuit. No takers. You see a man walk away with 3 cloaks and no pants. He looks proud. You salute his courage. You spot a sign, sharpening in exchange for gossip. You lean in. One guy sells rocks. Just rocks. Painted red. He calls them relics. People buy them. You once traded a nail clipping for a spoon. It wasn't even your nail. You regret nothing. You learn to haggle, to barter, to charm. You learn the price of soap is not fixed, but deeply emotional. A man offers poetry in exchange for half a shoe. He gets laughed at, then applauded, then paid. You wonder if words might be currency. You start rehearsing haikus about soup. You nod at your newest treasure. A chipped bowl. It leaks slightly, but it's yours. You hold it like it's holy. You eat. You grin. You hide it in your tunic. Morning prayer. A time of reflection, of reverence, of confusion. The priest begins. In Latin. He means well. You catch every fifth word. Mostly Amen and Dominus. The rest floats overhead, like incense and unspoken shame. Someone nods seriously. You follow suit. You don't want to look heretical. The man beside you whispers translations. They're probably made up. You nod anyway. A woman mouths along. She's reciting last night's dinner list. But no one notices. A goat bleats mid-blessing. It's the most heartfelt response so far. The priest raises his hands. Someone drops a spoon. You all pretend it was holy timing. The wind catches a page. It flutters away like divine mystery. You pray silently. For strength, for peace, for dry socks. The wind whistles through the prayer tent. It sounds vaguely like someone questioning their life choices. You nod along. That feels accurate. The goat bleats again. This time you almost agree with it. No one understands the words, but the rhythm feels ancient. So you stay still and let it wash over you. You bow. You breathe. You whisper your own version. By noon, you've brushed your teeth with a twig, scrubbed armor with sand, and traded gossip for potatoes. You've prayed in a language older than your tent mold. And through it all, you've survived another morning in the holiest mud pit on earth. A man passes you a boiled egg. You pass him a smile and a half-clean spoon. Someone breaks into a hymn. Off-key. On brand. You lie back on a tilted crate and let the flies buzz their tiny confessions. Another day begins. Not with glory, but with a sigh. And maybe a splinter. Someone asks if holiness can be measured in dirt. Another says it depends where you find the dirt. You nod. You found it in your soup. You found it in your soul. Yes, that's the real holy routine. You came for battle, but what you got was culinary despair. Welcome to the part of the crusade where hunger becomes your closest companion. It starts with smaller portions, then fewer vegetables, then no vegetables. Now someone's boiling leather. You pretend it's stew. You pretend a lot these days. The cook holds up a boot flap, says it's technically organic. You nod slowly. Someone jokes it's high in soul protein. You laugh, then chew. It tastes like betrayal and blisters. You soak bread until it dissolves. Then drink it, because chewing is now a luxury. A man tries to eat candle wax, regrets it immediately. You once saw a guy lick a helmet. You didn't ask why. You still don't want to know. The soup tastes like memory, mostly of better soups. No one asks what's for dinner anymore. The answer is always, what's left? You whisper to your stomach. It growls back. You both apologize. You sharpen your spoon, not for combat, but for scraping the bottom. You dream of apples, then wake to a man chewing his belt. No metaphor, just leather. Someone claims licking parchment helps. You watch. It doesn't. The hunger hums under your ribs. A low, vibrating prayer to nothing in particular. You breathe. You chew. You survive. It's lunchtime. Technically, the pot is steaming. That's the good news. The bad news? It smells like wet bark and mystery. You approach with cautious hope. You leave with something gray. Someone asks what's inside. The cook says, "Forest surprise." You nod. You were afraid of a specific answer anyway. You taste it. It crunches. That's not encouraging. It's hot. But not warm. You didn't know that was possible. Someone found moss in their bowl. They ate it. Said it added texture. A man claims he tasted pine. Another says it reminded him of home. Both might be hallucinating. You dig deeper. Scoop bark. Sip broth. Contemplate pine cones. The ladle squeaks against the bottom. You pretend not to notice. You imagine writing home. "Dear Mother, the soup has evolved. It now resists." Later, you swear the pot moved. Just a little. As if trying to flee the ingredients. You wonder if broth can lose hope. You ladle anyway. Because your stomach stopped caring what dignity tastes like. You cough. You swallow. You return for seconds. They say math is sacred. But here, food is measured by the squint. The ration master stares. Squints. Pours a little. Squints harder. Shrugs. One man gets half a ladle. Another gets enough. No one knows what that means. You try standing straight or in line. Maybe height earns you more. Someone slouches. Gets extra. You sit down. Morality fades quickly. A man brings his own spoon. It's suspiciously deep. He's tackled for it. Arguments begin. And begin again. Someone uses a rock to flatten their bowl. Says it creates surface area advantage. They're banned for creativity. You learn to smile at the server. You learn to look hungrier than you are. You perfect the art of silent pleading. Still, your portion is modest. Half a root. 2/3 of a mystery bean. You thank them. Because the alternative is nothing. And nothing tastes worse than fairness by accident. Someone starts assigning points for ladle angles. You don't know the rules. You clap anyway. Another holds their bowl like a sacred relic. It's empty. But the reverence is real. You wait. You squint. You hope. You walk away. Bowl in hand. Spirit pending. It looks like chicken. But no one's sure. Someone says bird. Someone says rat. Someone says, don't ask. You chew slowly. The texture says feathers once existed. The taste says maybe never again. The meat squeaks. You choose to believe it's enthusiasm. A bone splinters. You remove it gracefully. Like a noble knight. Of questionable hygiene. You dip it in broth. The broth backs away. A guy next to you calls it forest fowl. You admire his optimism. Another suggests it's a pigeon, with a strong opinion about camouflage. A kid bites something chewy, claims it fought back. He looks proud, possibly cursed. You take another bite. It crunches. You don't ask why. Someone starts a rumor it was divine delivery. You suggest divine refunds. The cook winks. You're unsettled. A feather floats by. No one touches it. It might be evidence. You pocket it anyway. Proof you once ate something vaguely airborne. You whisper to it. It doesn't reply. Still more polite than dinner was. Still, you finish it. Because faith is flexible. You sip. You chew. You look skyward just in case. You dreamed of feasts. Roasted lamb. Golden bread. Honey and wine. You got moss stew. Suspicious meat. And bark broth. But hunger is humbling. It strips you bare. Then feeds you whatever's left. You learn to eat with patience. And lowered expectations. You learn to bless things you'd never dare name out loud. Someone burps a hymn. Another blesses a boiled root. You trade recipes with people who don't know how to cook, and ingredients that don't want to be food. You laugh more than you expected, mostly from confusion. Someone makes a stew from boiled sock water and optimism. It's not good, but it's shared. That matters more now. You raise your spoon like a flag of survival. No flavor, no flair, just faith. And when someone asks, was that divine intervention? You shake your head. No. Divine intervention was not on the menu. Some battles are planned. This wasn't one of them. But when tempers rise faster than tactics, you end up with victories no one understands, and scars no one expected. It starts with a goat. Someone yells. Someone else throws a rock. Neither of them are generals. And yet, somehow this becomes the start of a battle. The horn is blown. By accident, a man sneezed into it. People scramble. Armor clinks. Voices rise like angry geese. You're handed a spear. You were just brushing your teeth. Someone shouts, "For glory!" Another yells, "For cheese!" You follow both, just in case. No one knows where the enemy is, but they assume it's over that hill. Or maybe the next one. You charge. You trip. You keep running. A chicken flies by. It might be symbolic, or just lost. The commander gives orders. No one hears them. Or maybe they just disagree. You fight. Not bravely, but loudly. Later, someone draws it on a map. A squiggle. Labeled, "That thing we did." You see a man fighting a bush. The bush wins. Another slips on mud, stabs a tent, then declares victory. Everyone cheers. Because honestly, that tent had it coming. It starts with a goat, but ends with 3 broken shields, a missing shoe, and a story no one agrees on. The fog was not part of the plan, but it showed up anyway, like an uninvited guest. who somehow brings pie. The field disappears. Voices echo in strange directions. Your own feet become strangers. You hear clanging. You swing. You hit, probably something. A man yells, "I think we're winning." Someone else replies, "At what?" Visibility drops to imagine it's night and you're blind. You hold your sword out like a divining rod. It taps metal. Or maybe a cooking pot. You turn in circles. You shout names. None of them are answered. Then, silence. The fog lifts. And somehow, the enemy is gone. A helmet lies in a tree. An arrow floats in a bucket. Your friend is wearing someone else's boot. No one is sure what happened. But the standard is still standing. So, technically, you won. You wipe mud from your eyes. Your tunic is backwards. Your shield is missing. Your pride is intact. Sort of. A rooster crows mid-fight. You salute it. Someone runs into a tree and apologizes. The tree does not forgive. You claim the fog made you braver, mostly because it hid your tears. You nod. You breathe. You call it strategy. Later, they write songs about bravery and honor and something called the Great Push. You don't remember any push. Just falling. Someone says it was a tactical feint. You think it was a sneeze? Someone else credits divine wind. You remember flatulence. It was definitely human. Your commander says it was brilliance. But he was hiding behind a tent. Everyone saw. They say the line held. But no one knows where the line was. They say the right flank advanced. There was no right flank. Just right boots? The victory speech is rousing. People cheer. You clap too. Then ask your neighbor, what exactly did we win? He shrugs, offers you a turnip. You eat it. That's victory enough. Someone carves a monument. It leans. Symbolic, probably. Later, the ballads include dragons. There were no dragons. Just a very angry goat with excellent timing. You start humming along. Even fiction needs a soundtrack. You try to believe, because belief is powerful. Even if blurry, you rest your head on a log. The mud feels familiar, almost earned. You smile, because sometimes confusion wears a crown. They count the bodies. Not just theirs. Yours too. You knew half of them. Traded rations. Shared jokes. Watched them sleep, snore, suffer. Now their tents are silent. Someone tries a prayer. It stumbles on the wind. You see a sword stuck in a bread loaf. No one laughs. There are no songs today. Just tally marks. Victory tastes dull. Like cold stew and too many names. They say it was worth it. They say it made history. But it made holes too. In the line. In your tent. In your chest. Someone wraps a wound with the edge of a flag. The fabric bleeds red on red. A boy carries a boot. Like it's sacred. You don't ask whose. Someone ties a ribbon to a spear, says it's for the fallen. Another ties his shoelaces and pretends not to cry. The quiet feels heavy, but necessary. You bury what you can. The rest is already fading. They tell you to celebrate. You try, but the air smells like iron, and no one is singing. You stand, you swallow, you stare. That night, the fire crackles. Someone hums. Someone cries. You sit with your legs stretched out, counting stars that don't answer. The commander calls it a triumph. He says destiny was fulfilled. You stir your soup. It doesn't agree. The men around you joke about medals, about how to spell hero with missing fingers. You smile with them. You drift with them. But inside, you wonder, is this what victory feels like? Bruised knees, empty tents, a belly full of bark and smoke? You won, they say. You nod. But the nod is heavy, because you've seen what loss looks like. And this feels familiar. You turn the spoon in your hand. It reflects the firelight. Dented, warped, still usable. Like you. You eat. You listen. You stay. And maybe that's enough for now. Faith is a powerful thing. But in a Crusader camp, it can also be contagious, confusing, and just a little bit dangerous. It begins, as these things often do, with a man who hasn't slept in 3 days. He wakes up, or maybe doesn't, and declares he's seen a vision, a shining spear, buried beneath the camp, sent by heaven, or indigestion. He's wide-eyed, sweaty, glowing with purpose. Everyone gathers, because in a place where stew tastes like sadness, any excitement is welcome. He draws it in the dirt. It's a stick, but people nod. They want to believe. Someone brings a torch. Another brings a shovel. You bring popcorn. Figuratively. The man says the angels whispered directions. Unfortunately, the angels weren't great with maps. Still, digging begins. It's loud, chaotic, surprisingly optimistic. The man starts humming. Others join. It's oddly catchy. You stare at the hole. You squint at the dirt. You wonder what hope looks like. When it wears mud and mania, he raises his arms. He points to the ground. Everyone holds their breath. You dig. You hope. You believe, sort of. Someone brings salt to bless the ground. Another offers onions to feed the holy soil. It becomes a potluck of confusion. You offer silence. It's the only thing that feels sacred. Hours pass. Blisters bloom. The shovel becomes a relic itself. Then, a clang. Metal on something. Not gold. Not glory. But close enough. They pull it up together. It's long. Iron. Bent like a question mark. The man cries. So do others. You're not sure if it's joy or dust. Someone yells, "A miracle!" Another faints from excitement or sunstroke. You lean in. It looks like a fence post, or a badly made sword, or a fire poker that lost a fight. Still, everyone cheers. They name it. They bless it. They wave it around. A child kisses it. The rust flakes off. He gags. We applaud anyway. The priest declares it holy, a relic of destiny. The relic squeaks when dropped. Holy, but clumsy. You ask where to store it. They say, in our hearts. You suggest, not near the soup. The relic now leads morning prayers. It gets better attendance than the commander. And somehow, this bent piece of iron makes people walk straighter. Someone sketches the relic in charcoal. It looks worse on paper. A bard begins composing a hymn. The chorus rhymes spear with fear and rear. It's terrible. We sing it anyway. You sigh. You laugh. You pray to the spear. Now armed with belief and a poorly balanced iron stick, the camp gathers. They march to the hilltop. A sea of unwashed determination. The spear leads. Technically, the man holds it, but the spear is clearly in charge. Voices rise. Banners flutter. One guy starts rapping psalms. You move in formation, roughly, like a drunken alphabet. The enemy watches from afar, confused, amused. Then someone trips. Then someone screams. Then everyone runs. In 3 different directions. The spear bearer charges too far ahead. Trips on a rock. Rolls. Crashes into a goat. The goat retaliates. Meanwhile, arrows fly. From where? No one knows. Panic replaces strategy. Mud replaces footing. You fall. You crawl. You swing at anything that looks unholy. Someone yells, "Protect the relic!" It's already in a ditch. You pull it out, covered in grass and regret. You limp back, covered in bruises, and maybe goat hair. You find yourself dueling a shrub. The shrub wins. A man waves the relic like a wand, hoping for divine lightning. He gets bird poop. He says it's a sign. We agree. The priest says it was a glorious attempt. You nod and try not to cry. The next day, the commander calls it a test, a trial of faith. You call it Tuesday. Morale wobbles. The spear gets polished. The wounded get bandaged. The goat gets promoted. The vision man now walks with a limp and a fan club. He claims another vision, this time involving a divine chicken. People prepare for another mission, this time with more socks and fewer expectations. They practice chants. One sounds like sneezing. No one corrects it. You train by running in circles, not on purpose. The relic gets stored in a box with dried leaves and someone's sock for energy. That evening, Someone sings a hymn in a minor key. The spoon chorus joins in. You stare at the hill. Still steep. Still waiting. They draft plans using spilled wine and crumbs. Strategy looks delicious. A chicken interrupts training. We name it after the saint. It poops on the map. We call that prophecy. Confidence is high. Wisdom is low. Strategy is under construction. And yet, hope lingers. Because apparently, even rusty miracles deserve a second try. You shake your head. You smile. You sharpen your sarcasm.
Yeah.
Later, historians will debate what the object actually was. A weapon? A relic? A glorified tent peg? You'll remember it differently, as the day the camp believed in something that squeaked. You'll recall mud, chaos, and the way laughter tasted better than rations. They'll call it the incident of the Iron Hope. And you'll smile, because sometimes faith moves mountains. Other times it trips over them. And that's okay, because in the middle of fear, hunger, and total confusion, people still found a reason to rally behind a rusty stick. In the years ahead, pilgrims will visit. They'll touch the rust and whisper wishes. Some will cry. Some will laugh. You'll stand back, watching, and hope they never ask what really happened. Miracles come in mysterious and rusty forms. You pack it in cloth. You tuck it by the fire. You whisper goodnight to it. It squeaks. You laugh. You sleep. They said this would be the end. A holy city. A final stand. A victory blessed by heaven. But under the sun, with no water, no shade, and no sense left. It's just a siege. And you're inside it. The sun no longer shines. It assaults. It drills through your helmet, your thoughts, your patience. Water is a myth. Your lips crack like bad pottery. You lick them, sandpaper on sandpaper. A man tries squeezing sweat from his shirt. It's not enough. Never is. Someone dreams of lakes. Wakes up chewing his blanket. You chew yours too. Not for hope, just for texture. The ground radiates misery. So do most of your comrades. There's no breeze. Not even mockingly. You sniff a water pouch. It smells like socks and regret. Someone offers you soup. It's just warm brine in a helmet. You say thank you. Then cry a little. The siege stretches. So does your shadow. Long, thin, tired. You curse the walls. You curse the rocks. You curse the goat again. Inside the city, they probably bathe. You hate them. Not for faith. For clean toes. Your throat is dust. Your mind is mush. Your prayers now come with coughing fits. Even your thoughts start to sweat. You dream of rain, only to wake soaked in disappointment. The goat stares at you. You think it's judging your hydration. And still, you wait. Someone has a plan. Not a good one, but it sparkles with desperation. They'll dig. Not under. Through. The wall. With spoons. Rusty, dented, warped spoons. Pilfered from mess kits, soup pots, and the occasional boot. You try to protest. You really do. But the plan has already started. With a battle cry of, by lunchtime, we breach. It's midnight. Still digging. Someone finds a worm. Names it Hope. You cheer. You lose your spoon. Someone trades theirs for a carrot. It's rubbery. They eat it anyway. The rock doesn't budge. Neither does your dignity. A man claims to hear cracks. It's his own back. We applaud anyway. Your fingers blister. Your faith blisters. Your spoons bend artistically. Eventually, you dig a hole deep enough to fit a particularly skinny squirrel. You consider sending a message via rodent. No one laughs. Except the worm guy. Hope is thriving. A man begins narrating the digging like a bard. It helps, briefly. Then he rhymes tunnel with trouble and gets banned from further poetry. We dig in silence. You pause. You breathe. You spoon the dirt like it's dessert. At least it's consistent. No one sings anymore. The chanting sounds like moaning now. Prayer and complaint blur into one gritty mumble. You sit in a circle. Not for bonding, just mutual suffering. Someone says maybe the walls are a test. Another says maybe the soup was. Everyone agrees on the soup. You stare at the sky. It stares back. Unimpressed. The priest holds mass. The only miracle is no one faints. He tries a sermon. His voice cracks. Someone sneezes. He says it's a blessing. No one argues. The relic is still here. Bent? Rusty. Symbolic. A man draws eyes on it. Says it's watching over us. We pretend it's holy. We need to. You hear muttering. Not prayers. Wishes to be anywhere else. A boy asks if Jerusalem has shade. You cry. Someone buries their last spoon. A funeral for sanity. Someone sculpts a saint out of mud. It melts. Another names his blister Peter. You baptize your misery. It answers to Tuesday. No one laughs. That makes it worse. Hope leaks slowly, like sweat from a helmet. Still, you stay. Still, you breathe. Because it has to end soon. Right? Then it happens. A crack. A boom. A scream. The wall shudders. The dust rises. The city opens. You freeze. Everyone does. Then chaos. The gate groans. So do your knees. You run anyway. You expect angels. You get arrows. And shouting. And flame. Inside, it's no heaven. It's heat and blood and confusion. Streets twist. Voices clash. Smoke licks the sky like hungry tongues. You lose your group. You find your fear. The banner falls. You pick it up. It's heavy with mud and something red. You see a baker swinging a ladle. You see a monk screaming. You see too much. You trip on bodies. Yours? Theirs? Who knows anymore? The city is yours. But what does that mean? There's no celebration. Just firelight and sobbing. You step over rubble. You step into silence. You won. Right? That's what this was for. You look up, and the sky still doesn't answer. A friend grabs your hand. You don't know his name, but his grip is real. Later, you realize that mattered more than any flag waving in fire. It's over, they say, but you still hold your breath. The streets smell like copper and cooked stones. The blood on your hands. You don't know whose. You sit. You wipe your face. More dirt than tears. The relic lies nearby. Bent. Still. Faithful. A man sings. It's broken Latin. But the tone aches. Someone lights a candle. It flickers. Then gives up. You walk past the altar. You step over sandals. Bones. Helmets. There's no triumph. Just trembling. The city is silent. Too quiet to be victory. Too loud to be peace. You wonder what was holy, and what was just hunger with a hymn. The priest whispers glory. You whisper, why? You stare at your boots. At the ground beneath them. You see the blood. Then, you feel nothing. Just air. Dust. And the way silence presses against your ribs, like grief without shape. You pass a window with no glass. Just wind, just echo. You wonder if faith survives on rubble, or if rubble is all that's left of faith. You sit down, not to rest, but because standing feels dishonest. And you let the stillness be louder than the war. The battle is done, but silence is not peace, and ash is not forgiveness. You expected trumpets. You got echoes. This is what comes after holy war. Not hymns, but sweeping. There's no roar of victory. Just boots. Dragging. No horns. No hymns. Just wind through broken shutters. And a dog too tired to bark. You expected cheering. Maybe crying. Anything. Instead, people stare. At nothing. At everything. You hear armor creak. You hear someone cough. You hear yourself think, and wish you couldn't. A boy holds a flag, upside down. No one corrects him. The priest tries a song. His voice cracks. It fades. You sit beside a barrel of ashes. Someone says it used to be a chapel. You don't ask what happened to the pews. You glance at your sword. It's heavy with silence. You put it down. It doesn't miss you. Someone steps in blood. and doesn't notice. That's the sound of triumph. Just footsteps. Through what's left, you look up. There are no doves. Just smoke pretending to be sky. Even the flies seem quiet, circling slowly like they, too, are mourning something vague and old. You hear a sparrow sing once, then stop, like it remembered what happened here. The city walks. Not marches, not parades. It shuffles, soft as regret. Cloaks sway like torn curtains. Eyes drift. Hands hang. Feet drag. You see faces, but not people. Not fully. Someone mutters a psalm. Someone else just breathes. You pass a man talking to himself. He's making dinner for someone who isn't there. A soldier walks in circles. You realize he's lost. Inside his own camp, children cling to strangers. Nobody pulls them off. You sip water. It tastes like smoke and guilt. Someone kneels in front of rubble. They're praying, or searching, or just resting. You hear laughter once. A boy and a goat. It sounds foreign. A woman sweeps ash from her doorstep. Like she's done it every morning. Maybe she has. No one gives orders. No one argues. It's not discipline. It's depletion. This is not what victory looked like. In the paintings, someone wears a helmet as a cooking pot. No one laughs. You spot a soldier stirring soup with a dagger. It's surprisingly efficient. You note it for future domestic innovations. You find the relic. Still bent. Still dusty. Still pretending. Someone picks it up. Whispers to it. Kisses it. Then falls over. No one screams. Just a few gasps. Mostly shrugs. The man isn't dead. Just very tired. Like most of us. The relic lies on his chest. It squeaks. A child giggles. Then hushes himself. You watch as they carry him to the shade. The relic stays behind. Like it knows better. The priest blesses it again. Out of habit. Not conviction. You wonder what it meant. This thing you dug from dirt. This hope on a stick. Now it's just another object. Like a spoon. Or a helmet. Or a very tired dream. A man sits next to it. Starts humming. No one stops him. Music is allowed again. Maybe. You lean against the wall. The stone is warm. Alive with echoes. And for once, the relic doesn't feel ridiculous. Just familiar. Someone tries to polish the relic. It sheds more rust than before. We pretend that's divine exfoliation. Someone else bows to it. We all squint, unsure if it's sarcasm or faith. They clean the streets, like folding laundry. Bodies are turned, checked, stacked, faces covered with strips of old tunic. No wailing, no theatrics, just motion. You help, because that's what there is to do. You lift, you carry, You try not to look too close. The ground is sticky, but your hands are steadier than expected. Someone whistles. Not a tune, just breath with shape. A soldier finds a ring, keeps it, maybe for memory, maybe for barter. You hear someone say, "He was my cousin." Then nothing more. The sun watches. Silent. Too bright for grief. A man counts aloud. 38. Then forgets what number comes next. A cart creaks by. Full of limbs. No one turns away. Someone sneezes. We say, "Bless you." The irony isn't lost. You sit. Your knees ache. Your back hums. But the worst part is how normal it feels. Like this isn't horror. Just another Tuesday. You place a body beside a broken statue. The statue has no arms. The body has no shoes. Somehow, both feel equally lost. You whisper a name. You don't know whose. Later, there are speeches. Words like glory, and purpose, and chosen. You sit in the back, in the dust, with your cracked bowl and your even more cracked heart. A commander talks of destiny. You wonder if he ever held a shovel or a dying friend. Someone calls this sacred history. You look around, at the ash, at the flies, at a child playing with a burnt piece of bread. They say Jerusalem is ours. You nod and wonder what ours even means. When half of us is gone, the priest lifts the relic. It squeaks. Everyone claps. You laugh, because really, this is the ending? This? You pat the ground. It doesn't answer, but it doesn't lie either. Glory was not as glorious as promised. You finish your water. You close your eyes. You sleep. Because what else is left to do? Later, historians will draw maps, trace strategies, name commanders. But no scroll will mention the boy feeding pigeons breadcrumbs from his sleeve, or the woman sweeping with tears in her apron. They said you'd come back a hero, but the road is long. Your boots are thin, and your thoughts thinner still. This is not a return. This is a second pilgrimage. Only now, you don't know where you're going. You walk with half a shoe, and a pebble that's become your closest companion. Your other foot is wrapped in cloth, blessed by 3 priests, and still utterly useless. The road winds like a drunk sermon. Backwards, sideways, endlessly. Your thoughts wander further than your feet. You imagine arriving home to applause. Then you imagine arriving home to silence. A farmer asks where you've been. You say Jerusalem. He says, "That a new tavern?" You nod. It's easier. You try not to limp. It doesn't work. Your hip clicks like a bad hinge. Your knees argue with your spine. Your spine resigns. A goat follows you. You take that as divine companionship. You lose count of days, then of meals, then of reasons. You squint at the horizon. It looks indifferent. Someone offers a cart ride. You say no. Penance requires blisters. You whisper prayers. Between curses. Between yawns. You're not sure which ones count. A child offers you a rock, calls it a welcome gift. You accept. It's smoother than your journey. You name it home. It doesn't complain. That's more than you can say for your knees. The road is full of pilgrims and people who used to be. Some walk barefoot. Not by choice. Shoes were yesterday's luxury. One man sings to a stick. Another calls it mother. Someone laughs. Then cries. Then eats a flower. You meet a knight missing 5 teeth. He smiles like he still has them. You nod politely. A woman argues with the wind. And loses. Maps are passed around. They show nothing useful. Just artistic guesses. Mountains shaped like bread loaves. Rivers that loop out of boredom. You join a group. Then leave. Then rejoin. Nobody notices. A boy thinks you're his uncle. You let him believe. It gives you both something. Someone sees a lake. It's a mirage. But they swim anyway. A man tries to walk east. Everywhere is east now. And none of it feels right. You sleep on moss. Or rocks. Or possibly a squirrel. You dream of directions. But wake with only forward. At night, you see stars. You wish on one. Then apologize, it probably heard worse. Your dreams are quiet now. Not peaceful, just tired. Like your body finally taught your mind how to sit still. Hunger comes like a sermon. Repetitive, long, hard to ignore. You spot grapes. Shiny. Plump. Unsupervised. You don't ask. You pluck. A shout. Then 2. Then a farmer appears with a broom. And excellent aim. You run. Badly. Someone drops bread. You pick it up. It smells like regret and possibility. You cross a stream. Slip. Land on your dignity. The grapes? Still in your pocket. Mostly. You find a fig. Eat around the ants. A dog barks at your face. You bark back. It considers your offer. A woman sells stew from a bucket. You don't ask what's in it. You pay in buttons and a wink. Your hands? Unwashed. Your conscience? Somewhere near your elbow. You pass a field. Scare some crows. They don't take it personally. Later, a monk scolds you for filth. You offer him a grape. He eats it. You both pretend. It never touched your sock. You drop your last coin into a wishing well. Wish for a bath. Nothing happens. You try again with a grape stem. The wind laughs. You count that as divine acknowledgement. You reach home. At least the place you left. The path is familiar. The gate less so. It squeaks like it forgot your name. You knock. A dog barks. You wait. The dog stares. You stare back. Recognition does not arrive. It sniffs, sneezes, walks away. You mutter your own name. The wind does not echo it. A child peeks out. You wave. They wave back. But only out of politeness. You step inside. The air smells of stew and something new. Your old sandals hang by the door, smaller than you remember. Someone asks, "Were you gone long?" You say nothing. You don't know the answer. Your bed still creaks. Your bones still ache. But you lie down, like it's a stranger's floor. The dog curls near the fire. You do too. But further away, you sleep. But not like you used to. Your reflection in the water startles you. More lines, less sparkle. But still your eyes. Still your hands. And somehow, you remember how to smile without needing a reason. In the morning, you wake up with the light. Not to it. With it, like you've been rebuilt. From shadows and sore knees. The stew smells like comfort. Or memory. Or both. Voices fill the room. Some familiar. Some foreign. You listen. But don't speak. Your name is said. It rolls strangely in the air. Like a coat no longer worn. You step outside. The sun is where you left it. Birds sing. You flinch. You wander the yard. You touch the wall. It's rougher than you recall. A woman greets you. You forget if she's your cousin, or someone who once owed you bread. She smiles anyway. You nod. You are here, and not like a ghost, trying to haunt its own life. You sit on a stone, warm with morning, soft with moss. You ask no questions. Because the hardest one is, do I belong anywhere now? You place your hand on the doorframe. It fits, almost. You whisper, I'm back. Though no one asked. The silence accepts you anyway. That feels like enough. For now. Now it's part of someone's shortcut to the bakery. History forgets in soft colors. You hear your story again. Painted, rhymed, recited. And somehow, you're no longer in it. They call it noble now. They call it noble now. The crusade. Noble. The word rolls strange in your ears. Like armor that doesn't fit anymore. You hear a young man say, they marched for justice. You nearly choke on your bread. Was that what it was? You remember marching for orders? For the wrong boots. For stew that looked like mud and tasted like less. But the storytellers disagree. They say you were shining. Unified. Holy. They forget the arguments. Over dry socks and wet underpants. You walk past a classroom. The teacher says, a time of glory. You want to raise your hand. Ask about the lice. Instead, you keep walking. Because no one likes a historical inconvenience. It's easier to believe in heroes when you forget they snored, limped, and smelled like goats. A bard recites, Their sandals never tore. You pause. Yours tore twice before breakfast. Another says they never feared death. You remember hiding behind a bush so long, a squirrel tried to nest on you. You pass a tavern. The sign outside says Knight's Glory Ale. Inside, they sing about battles that smelled like roses. You wonder if they've ever smelled armor after rain, or feet after a 12-mile march. Rewritten in poems and paintings. You find a book. It's beautiful. Gilded pages. Illustrations. Your name, maybe? Or something close. A man reads from it aloud. Lines so sweet. They rot your teeth. The Crusaders were bright as dawn. Their hearts pure, their swords swift. You blink. That's not how Gerald fell off his horse. You flip pages. Paintings show glowing warriors. Kneeling, praying, never bleeding. In one, they ride in perfect rows. On horses that look shampooed. You remember 3 donkeys. A limp goat. And a mule named Regret. A poet signs copies. People cheer. You wonder, do they know what blood smells like? After 4 days in the sun? Do they care? You doubt it. Turns out rhymes don't leave room for boils, blisters, or boredom. In one verse, a knight gives a flower to a beggar. You recall giving a boot to a monk because yours melted in a campfire. It didn't rhyme, but it did blister. A woman hands you a scroll. I wrote this, she says, beaming. You read it. There's a dragon, a princess, a knight in shining armor. You ask who the knight is? She says, maybe you. You smile, sadly. They forget the smells. You walk through a gallery. The air smells like lavender wax and pride. The paintings smell clean. The past did not. You remember boots soaked with things you didn't name out loud. Fires that never caught. Blankets that whispered mildew. Tents that collapsed with attitude. You remember the man who used his own shield as a toilet. He's not in the paintings. In the drawings, everyone's posture is majestic. No one picks their nose. No one scratches anything inappropriate. The lice are missing. So is the cold. You run your finger along the frame. No grease. No blood. No crumbs. It's beautiful. It's a lie. You wonder what parts of you have been gently erased. A noblewoman gasps at a painting. So valiant, she says. You try not to laugh. You once fought 4 men with food poisoning. The victory was mostly against your own stomach. You walk by a perfume shop. They sell Crusader's musk. You laugh so hard your back cracks. The real smell was a mix of regret, sweat, and goats on fire. But that wouldn't sell well. You don't recognize yourself. A crowd gathers in the square. A priest reads a tale. The knight who shone like dawn and never feared. You lean closer. That's your unit, or what's left of it. They speak of courage, of selflessness. They skip the time you all argued over who got the dry corner of the tent. You listen, and you don't know if you're proud or missing. because the hero they praise never tripped, never cried, never buried a friend under a broken cart. While pretending it didn't matter, you look at your hands, still scarred, still here, but the version in their story feels taller. He stands straight, doesn't wince when it rains. He never had to limp home to find his name had been spelled wrong on the village wall. Apparently, memory comes with editing rights. In their story, your shield gleamed. In truth, you used it as a plate, sometimes a mirror. Once, a lid for soup that smelled like feet. Still, it saved your life. Probably more than once. A bard asks for your tale. You begin mud, doubt, hunger. He interrupts, too dark. Adds, make it rhyme. So you tell of a knight who lost his spoon and fought a rat for it. Now that gets applause. Punchline, you were braver, cleaner, and taller. You sip from your cup. A boy stares. You were in the Crusades? He asks. You nod. He squints. You don't look like the painting. You smile. That's because I survived it. He thinks for a moment, then shrugs, then runs off to reenact the version with dragons and glittery swords. You finish your drink. It tastes like dust and a little pride. Because apparently, you were braver, cleaner, and taller. Later, at home, someone paints you. They forget the limp, add a sparkle to your teeth, give you a taller horse. You hang it anyway, not for the memory, but for the irony. You find a child playing with toy armor. Plastic, clean, bright red. She says she's you. You say, I hope not. But only in your head. Out loud, you just wave. Because if it brings her joy, maybe that's enough. You breathe. You remember. You keep walking. Your world. That used to be your corner. No one notices. You trace your finger through the dust on a windowsill. That's something. But it didn't throw you away either. The world didn't wait. You smile. Then runs off chasing a cat. She nods too. You nod. You were a knight. A child tugs your cloak. Or maybe that's you. It's bitter. You eat it anyway. It costs more than your old boots. You buy an apple. In a sentence already moving on. You are a pause. But not in it. You're back. And now? While you were bleeding in circles, the world kept walking. No follow-up? They say, oh. You say gone? Someone asks where you've been. For these small moments, your stories sound too big. Your sword rusts. Your clothes itch. You nod anyway. The topic changes. You try to join a conversation. Of anything but war. Of harvest. They talk of taxes. They carry baskets. Forward. Full. Fast. People pass. You sit at the edge of the town square. And labeled ages 5 and up when it's pre-sanded. Heroism seems safer. That feels right. It splinters. You hold one. They sell wooden swords outside the inn. Than reality ever did. History has better PR. But it sounds like coughing. You laugh. And sold to children. Wrapped in silk. Simple. Now it's shiny. The ridiculousness of it all. The fear. The stories forgot the smell. You're an edit. You're not a hero. The kids look disappointed. No, but I stepped on a thorn once. Instead, you say, he snored and stole blankets. He was named Gerald. Yes. You want to say, did you ever fight a dragon? A boy asks. And communal blisters. You remember Trenchfoot? Squeaky clean. Handsome. She says they were brave. You drop your spoon with handshakes and healed the sick. Who rode unicorns. About the Golden Crusaders. A woman tells a tale. That was not in the briefing. You raise a brow. The other, I'm the Holy Wizard of Rain. One says, I'm Sir Lionface. They call them swords. Children play with sticks. You miss the onions. Now it sells candles shaped like saints. You used to sell onions here. You laugh alone. They renamed the town square to Unity Plaza. Like a fading rumor that remembers you. Through a home, you walk on. Who didn't wait for it, but only to people. Change is funny. It tastes complicated. You chew slowly. They serve bread shaped like swords. It's now divine breads and relics. You try to find the old bakery. Easier that way. You nod. Someone asks if you're new in town. The candles flicker in approval. You chuckle. To where you used to nap. Then realize you're praying. Out of habit. You kneel. And a plaque. With candles. A shrine. Your favorite tree? It's now Blessing Row. You pass your old street. Also harder to spell. The new name sounds holier. For better maps. For trade. For pilgrims. After the war. Apparently, your village rebranded. Marketing, he says. He shrugs. You ask an old man. That wasn't its name before. You blink. It says, New St. Reginald's Rest. Until you read it. The signpost looks familiar. But the smoke smells different now. You dream of the old fire crackle. It leans better than your spine. That night, you sleep under a tree 3 houses away. He probably lives somewhere else, too. Because the dog didn't bark. Later, you laugh. And a heart shaped like nothing useful. With a crust of bread. So you leave. The table's too round now. You say nothing. You say yes. You say no. That smells like pity. For some vague arrangement. For the week. For dinner. They invite you to stay. Mostly, you believe him. I didn't know. He says, you thought so too. You nod. I thought. She says, that's worse. No one yells. It now has flowers on it. It was yours. You recognize it. He grips a mug. She gasps. That wasn't there before. So does a wedding band. Your wife stands between you. Or rather, him seeing you. Then you see him. The firewood stacked in a style you don't use. The dog's gone. The chair's new. Who paid rent late? You step inside like a ghost. But your bed does not. Your house still stands. You wonder if that's desperation or innovation. A man nearby seasons his stew with a tear. Even your memories feel unsalted. Nothing. You try licking your lips for memory. It spices what it lacks. Because that's how memory works. Pretend it's holy. You close your eyes. Saltless. You eat plain porridge. For just the regret part. Now you'd trade your sword. That tasted like regret in old socks. You remember a bowl of stew? That might have been you. Then realize. You laugh. Knights licked their boots for it. Someone whispers. A seasoning of the chosen. Salt became sacred. Too much marching. Too few minds. Too many mouths. They say the price spiked during the wars. And you're not the one telling it. Now it's a story. Once salt meant pay. You savor them like relics. He gives you 3 grains. You nod. You sure you want to spend history on soup? That's a collector's item, he says. The merchant sniffs it, then you. You try to buy some with a coin. Or a goat. Now it costs a favor. It used to cost a grunt. Salt. The first thing you notice? That's the worst part. Almost the same. Everything looks in a language you don't recognize. But the door creaks. You step into the world you once knew. You sit alone again. Not sad. Not proud. Just quieter than history usually allows. You walk a hill no longer marked on any map. Beneath your feet, stone cracked by roots, a broken spearhead, and a ring someone probably never meant to lose. You sit beside a wall that once held up orders and now holds up moss. There's a tree, twisted like a prayer, a scroll wedged in its fork. The ink is faded. The words are confused. Someone tried to record it all. You smile. It's mostly footnotes about soup recipes and complaints about tent neighbors. That's real. That's what stays. Not banners. Not sermons. Just the quiet leftovers. A spoon, a joke, a stone that held a boot upright. You pick one up. It's warm from the sun. It feels like a memory that stopped asking for attention. You find a buckle. Half a shoe. A coin worn smooth. Someone once cared enough to bury it. Or forgot it, too hungry to notice. A faded cloth pressed flat by time. Smells like old sweat and clove. You don't need an explanation. It's enough that it's still here. You press your palm against a stone. It's warm. Not from sunlight, but from having held so many stories. Your fingers trace a groove. Maybe a sword. Maybe a seat. Maybe someone once sat here to say goodbye. There are lessons here, but they don't come with gold trim or dramatic pauses. They come in the shape of silence, of places people don't visit, of things people walk past and call ruins. You remember how it felt to believe you were right, and how it felt when that belief got very, very quiet. You learned what courage looks like after it stops yelling. You learned how to keep walking, even after the reason disappears. No one paints those lessons. They don't rhyme. They don't win prizes, but they stay in bones that ache when the rain shifts, in hands that tremble before the sword is ever lifted, in stories that never make it to the pretty books. You watch a leaf fall onto a cracked helm. Some lessons just wait until you're quiet enough to hear them. You once thought the point was glory, then survival, then meaning. Now maybe the point was just walking beside someone who didn't ask you to be better, only honest. You sigh, not because it hurts, because you understand something that can't be said. In fewer than 10 winters, you lean back, just for a second. The ground gives a little, but it holds. The tree shades your eyes. You hear birds, but you don't try to name them. A fly buzzes. You don't swat. There is peace in not reacting. You smell the last of summer on a breeze that took its time. You close your eyes and drift through the story again. Not the shiny one, the real one, with burnt bread and stolen socks and mud that got into everything except your dreams. You remember laughter, Gerald trying to invent medieval lasagna, someone else writing love poems to a loaf of dry bread. You don't remember winning. You remember surviving and sleeping beside people who sang off-key lullabies because no one remembered the war songs. You let it all rise and settle like smoke that isn't in a hurry, and your head tilts. You drift, and the story rocks you softly. You feel a snore coming before it arrives. It belongs to no one now, just the moment. In dreams, you walk barefoot through mud. That doesn't chill. You laugh again, with men you forgot to thank. The dream ends with soup, and nobody complains. The wind doesn't howl. It hums through the branches, through your cloak, through the little flame you nursed into a fire, just big enough to warm one hand. You lie on your side, watching it flicker. It spits once, then apologizes in sparks. A sheep bleats in the distance, or maybe it's your stomach. No matter. The stars peek through a lazy sky. Your breath fogs, but you don't shiver. You smell grass, dry, sunburned. Content. You tuck your legs under you, like a child waiting for bedtime. Your sword is a footrest. Your regrets are off duty. The fire crackles a story. you've already lived. And the wind finishes your thoughts before you even form them. This is the part they forget to paint. The part where the night becomes a shadow, curled in warmth. That isn't one. Just found. You close your eyes. There is nothing left to prove. The wind shifts again. Not colder, just changed. Like someone flipped the page in a very old book. Your fingers twitch, then relax. A fox darts past. Unbothered, you smile. Even nature forgot you were a knight. You speak one last word. To no one. To everything. It doesn't need to be heard. Your eyes close. The fire lowers its voice. Even the wind steps lighter now. Tomorrow waits. But it waits quietly. Somewhere, merchants load silk. A camel sneezes. Baghdad dreams of trade routes. And fig cakes. You'll go there soon. But not yet. Now. Just rest. Just breathe. Just remember, without needing to retell, if someone stood beside you now, you wouldn't speak. You'd just offer the fire, and maybe a story. Maybe not. Some endings don't need to close. They just fade into sleep. A cricket chirps. A rhythm slower than memory. The world doesn't end. It exhales. You are not erased. Just resting. Between one tale and the next. Good night. And next time, we'll walk with the merchants of Baghdad. You smile just once more. And sleep finds you, as it always does, quietly.